July 30th, 1975. A seemingly ordinary summer day in Bloomfield Township, Michigan. But on this day, one of America's most powerful and controversial figures, James Hoffa, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that has baffled investigators and captivated the public for nearly half a century. So who is Jimmy Hoffa? To understand his disappearance, you have to understand the man. Born in 1913, Hoffa was a fighter from the start. He rose through the ranks of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, one of the largest and most influential labor unions in North America. He was charismatic, ruthless, and incredibly effective. By 1957, he was its president. Under his leadership, the Teamsters secured incredible gains for their members: better wages, better benefits, a better life. To millions of truck drivers and warehouse workers, Hoffa was a hero, a champion of the working class. But there was a dark side. To get things done, Hoffa forged alliances with some of the most powerful figures in organized crime. The lines between the union and the mob became dangerously blurred. The Teamsters' massive pension fund, worth billions, became a personal bank for the mafia, financing everything from Las Vegas casinos to illicit ventures. Hoffa's power was immense, but it came at a price. He made powerful enemies, not just in rival unions, but within the government itself. Chief among them was Robert F. Kennedy. As chief counsel for a Senate committee, and later as Attorney General, Kennedy made it his personal mission to take down Hoffa. He saw him as a corrupt force, a man who had sold out his union members to the mob. The battle between Hoffa and Kennedy was legendary, a clash of titans played out in hearing rooms and courtrooms. Finally, in 1964, Kennedy's efforts paid off. Hoffa was convicted of jury tampering, fraud, and conspiracy. In 1967, he went to prison. But Jimmy Hoffa was not a man to be kept down. He ran the Teamsters from his prison cell, confident he would one day return to power. In 1971, his sentence was commuted by President Richard Nixon. But with a crucial condition: Hoffa was barred from any union activities until 1980, for a man whose entire identity was tied to the Teamsters. This was a death sentence. He immediately began fighting the restriction, planning his comeback. This put him on a collision course with the very people who had taken over the union in his absence, many of whom were his former allies in the mob. They had grown comfortable with the new leadership, led by Frank the Irishman Fitzsimmons, had no desire for the notoriously hot-headed and unpredictable Hoffa to return and rock the boat. This brings us back to that fateful day. July 30th, 1975, Hoffa told his family he was heading to a meeting at the Machu's Red Fox restaurant, a popular upscale spot in Bloomfield Township. He was expecting to meet with two men, Anthony Tony Jack Giacalone, a powerful Detroit mob captain, and Anthony Tony Provenzano, a New Jersey Teamsters official and Caporegium in the Genovese crime family. The relationship between Hoffa and Provenzano was particularly toxic. They'd had a major falling out in prison, but Hoffa believed this meeting was a crucial step in mending fences and paving the way for his return to the Teamsters presidency. He arrived at the restaurant around 2 p.m. He waited and waited. He called his wife from a payphone, complaining that he'd been stood up. That was the last time anyone ever heard from him. By the next morning, when he hadn't returned home, his family reported him missing. The investigation began immediately. Hoffa's car was found in the restaurant's parking lot, unlocked, with no signs of a struggle. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. The FBI launched one of the most extensive missing person investigations in American history. The primary suspects were the men Hoffa was supposed to meet. Both Giacalone and Provenzano had ironclad alibis, claiming they were nowhere near the Machu's Red Fox that day. The investigation quickly zeroed in on a handful of other key figures connected to them. One was Hoffa's close friend and so-called foster son, Charles Chucky O'Brien. Hoffa had helped raise O'Brien, but by 1975 their relationship was strained. O'Brien was now an aide to Frank Fitzsimmons and had ties to Joe Coloni. A Mercury Marquis broom borrowed by O'Brien that day became a central piece of the puzzle. Cadaver dogs later reacted to a scent in the car's trunk, suggesting a body had been transported in it, but the evidence was inconclusive. Over the years, The theories about what happened to Jimmy Hoffa have become the stuff of legend. The most famous, of course, is that he was buried under the end zone of the old Giants Stadium in New Jersey. The FBI even searched the site, but found nothing. Other theories have placed his final resting place under a Detroit driveway, in a Florida swamp inside a fat rendering plant, or crushed inside a car at a scrapyard. Every few years, a new lead emerges. A deathbed confession is reported, and a new patch of ground is dug up, always with the same result: nothing. So, what is the most likely scenario? The prevailing belief among law enforcement and experts is that Hoffa was lured to the meeting under false pretenses. He was likely picked up from the restaurant parking lot by someone he trusted, driven to a nearby location, and killed. His body was then disposed of with ruthless efficiency, in a way that would ensure it would never be found. The hit was almost certainly ordered by the mafia leadership, who saw Hoffa's comeback attempt as a direct threat to their control over the Teamsters pension fund. Men like Tony Provenzano and Tony Giacalone orchestrated the plot, using lower-level associates to carry out the dirty work. One of the most compelling accounts came from Frank the Irishman Sheeran, a mob hitman and close friend of Hoffa. In his final years, Sheeran claimed that he was the one who personally shot and killed Hoffa in a house in Detroit. He said he picked Hoffa up, telling him they were going to the real meeting. He claimed Hoffa got in the car without hesitation because he saw him, a trusted friend. Sheeran's confession formed the basis of the 2019 Martin Scorsese film, The Irishman. The FBI investigated the house Sheeran identified and found blood evidence. But DNA testing was ultimately unable to link it to Hoffa. Another key figure was Salvatore Sal Brigaglio, a ruthless enforcer for Tony Provenzano. A federal informant claimed Brigaglio was one of the men who actually carried out the murder. Brigaglio himself was murdered, shot to death in Little Italy, New York, in 1978, just before he was scheduled to testify before a grand jury about the Hoffa case, a classic case of silencing a witness. The web of suspects, motives, and mafia connections is incredibly dense. Everyone had a reason to want Hoffa gone, and everyone had an alibi. The mob's code of silence, omerta, held firm. No one broke. No body was ever found. Without a body, a murder weapon, or a crime scene, securing a murder conviction has been impossible. The disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa marked a turning point. It was a brutal and public demonstration of the mafia's power. But it also triggered a massive federal crackdown that would, over the next 2 decades, severely weaken organized crime's grip on labor unions. In 1982, nearly 7 years after he was last seen, Jimmy Hoffa was declared legally dead. His legacy remains deeply complicated. Was he a working-class hero who flew too close to the sun? Or a corrupt union boss who got what was coming to him? Perhaps he was both. The one certainty is that his disappearance created an enduring American myth. It's a story of power, loyalty, betrayal, and the ultimate price of ambition. A mystery sealed by a code of silence, buried somewhere in the soil of Michigan, or perhaps somewhere else entirely, lost to time. For nearly 50 years, the question has haunted us: what happened to Jimmy Hoffa? While we may never have a definitive answer, the search continues to capture our imagination. A grim reminder of a turbulent era and a man who was larger than life, right up until the moment he disappeared. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest unsolved mysteries.